Recording in progress. You'll get that question. And if you don't want to comment because the recording's going on, I'll stop the recording after about an hour. Sometimes we go over 5, 10, 15 minutes, and then we stay and chat a little bit, and then we can share or have questions or whatever you want to do then as well, and not recorded. If you don't want to have this on a recording. So welcome everyone. It is Tuesday night, January 3rd. That's odd to say, isn't it? January 3rd, 2023, Tuesday evening. Welcome, welcome. I'm Glenda Carlin, and this is our weekly A Course in Miracles meeting. I'm in Melbourne, Florida, Eastern time zone. So thank you for you all checking your time zones and coordinating to be here live. It's wonderful. I love seeing your shining faces. The first thing I want to do is invite in Holy Spirit, Jesus, Buddha, enlightened beings, and ascended masters. They're always here. They're always around. They are, but they will never intrude. You got to invite them in, ask them. So we invite you in and guide us what to do or say, and also have fun. Help us gain insights. And then I always, in A Course in Miracles, the main course, this big 2-inch thick book, the main thing is to practice Jesus's advanced forgiveness. And I didn't know what that was for years, from 2004 to 2014. I really didn't know what it was, but I wasn't ready to hear it, or I would have heard it, right? But it really is where we look past the form to the immortal spirit that's here now. And as I practice this more and more, I relate it to space, that like you look past the forms on the screen, looks like there's air or space around each person. That is a clear light, or a very openness space that has no ending to it. That's clear light of God. But now I don't even really know what to call our source, because there's so many names for it, or origin of all things, the living God, the living Tao. Each of you have your own relationship with Holy Spirit and God. And I'm now at the point to call it a holy space, S-P-A-C-E, a holy space, eternal space, due to that Ah mantra that I practice, where I dissolve, the mind and my awareness dissolves into nothingness, or a space that's really, there's no definition for it. It's just dissolving into the awareness of perfect oneness. But each of you comes up with your own experience with that. So advanced forgiveness is looking at each person, and you either just look past their form to the spirit that's there around them, the clear light of spirit that's there. And spirit shows itself by clear light or energy, or these experiences of revelation or light experiences as we awaken from this dream. But anyway, or you can actually say it silently to the person, you are spirit, whole, pure, and innocent, all is forgiven and released. Or you can say all of it to the person silently. And like I explain nearly every time that I have a meeting, I never believed each of you were Christ or Buddhas or God, but I knew and trusted Jesus was right. And he told us to practice this. As you think of your brother, you think of yourself. So I would just rotely say Christ or Buddha or God to each person, called faking it while making it. For this lifetime, for many, many years, we have believed in darkness. Now we can fake it while we make it, visualizing the clear light, or even thinking about it as white light or colored light, whatever light you want to think of it, as spirit or clear light, whatever. Anyway, so I address each person right now. Holy Son of God, Nance, God. Holy Son of God, Barbie, God. Holy Son of God, Rob, God. Holy Son of God, Danelle, God. Holy Son of God, Joanne, God. Holy Son of God, Leon, God. Holy Son of God, Gonzalo, God. Holy Son of God, Angela, God. Holy Son of God, Julia, God. Holy Son of God, Joan, God. Holy Son of God, Glenda, God. Now, first, when I look back on my experiences, I had to get so I didn't believe that you were Christ or Buddha, but I just kept practicing, and then you'll believe it. You'll finally believe it. But then when you read the Course, I think it's lesson 183, Jesus says, call on the name of God, which is also your name, he says in that lesson. Your name is really God, because in reality, there's only God. Only in a dream can we make up something that seems to have power that's different from love, peace, and joy. Only in a dream. And that's why the Course is here, to help us wake up from the dream. So that's why it freaks people out sometimes that I say God to each one of you, but I'm not kidding. Go check lesson 183 out. But as you do the Course, you'll do what's comfortable for you. That's why you call it Jesus or Christ or Buddha, are the same brothers in oneness, or God. You'll do what's right for you, or spirit. You never push yourself. You do what you feel comfortable with, but you have to practice. Without practicing, consciously practicing these lessons, and this advanced forgiveness is the crux of the whole Course in Miracles. If you don't do the practice, integrate it in your each day, then Holy Spirit can't heal the unconscious mind. And very few teachers of this Course talk about the unconscious mind. But that's the crux of the secret part of the Course, so to speak. The unconscious mind is deep as an iceberg, and it holds every thought you've ever had. I'm not kidding. Every thought you've ever thought, every thought you've ever said, because there's only one mind, and that one mind, everything you think, say, and do, it believes it's you. You're talking about you, to you, and about you, for you. So be very aware what you're thinking and saying about your brothers, because that then, if I'm thinking somebody's hateful, mean, and horrible, that's what I am. That goes right into your unconscious mind, and it's called karma. The Course doesn't call it that, but Jesus calls it cause and effect. The thoughts are causes, and the effect will be reactions, and things come back to you in your life. And the Course lessons are here to help you purify your mind of thoughts of separation from your brother, yourself, and God. That's the three things. Thoughts of you're not remember what you are, holy Christ, holy Buddha, holy God. You haven't remembered what your brother is, holy God, holy Christ, holy Buddha. And you sure as heck haven't remembered there's God right here, right now, because the Course teaches the last thing you're going to give up is the fear of God. And most people will say, oh, that's not true. Well, in the conscious mind, we can say that, but in the unconscious mind, that's what's driving ego. It is the fear of God, and it knows that the mind is only one, and it knows there's a power there that has never attacked it, but it knows it's there and more powerful than it. So it strikes first, typically, ego does. But anyway, the unconscious mind, you cannot get to, but Holy Spirit can. And it's not a one-for-one thing. So if you practice advanced forgiveness on your family members, politicians, whatever you see on TV, your neighbors, your grocery store lineup, people online, and it's not just practicing on what things are bad. Nowhere in the Course of Jesus is only practice advanced forgiveness or forget on the bad stuff. He says, whatever comes to mind, practice. Because in duality, there's good and bad. Now, in your progression and awakening, first you got to get to be able to be aware of what ego actually is doing in your mind and sorting true from false. And then you're learning to love the things you hate. You're going from hating, and you don't think it's hating, but if you're irritated or upset or angry, that's the same as Jesus says in the Course, the same as viciousness. It just covers. And it's okay. It's great that we're not all out here violently angry as we practice the Course. And you'll have less and less of these reactions. But the point is, you practice on things that show up in front of your face. And if you do one, Holy Spirit may heal 100 or 1,000 of these thoughts of separation that are on your unconscious mind. It is not one for one. I know that much. And my own experience is it builds on itself. as you practice, this culminates, becomes even a bigger healing process. And it doesn't take you as long to feel that Jesus says in the Course, your mood and your feelings tells you which voice you're listening to, the voice for God, which is Holy Spirit, which is only voice that's real, or the voice of ego, which is false, made up. We made it up. So you'll more quickly realize, I chose with ego, I can choose again. That's, I forget, chapter 31, choosing again, once again, which voice you want to listen to. But anyway, so what this lesson here tonight that I'm gonna, or the title of the court talk for tonight is, I forget what it was. I end up calling these things, there really is nobody out there. And that's shocking. And I could say that to myself off and on over the years, but the culmination, that a realization that there's nobody out there, came this last weekend. And I just share what happens with me so that you all can be a kind of aware of where the goal is, what the goal Jesus is talking about in this course. These are lofty. This course is a lofty, high spiritual teaching, because he says, you are Christ. You are Christ. You are God. And there's a straight path to get to that awakening if you integrate it in your daily life. You can't just mouth these words. You got to use them in your daily life. And you don't have to believe them. That's in the introduction to the workbook. You don't have to believe any of this stuff. You just have to do it. Jesus just says it. It's in the application that you will have the experience. So what I found, it's 2014, I've been really practicing Jesus advanced forgiveness. And then 3 years ago, I was introduced to Dzogchen Buddhism and this Lama Surya Das. And Dzogchen Buddhism isn't typical Buddhism, just like in Christianity, all these religions, there's various religions under the name Christianity. There's various faiths within the heading Buddhism. Dzogchen is the highest secret teaching of Buddhism, just like this course is the highest teaching of Jesus, because he dictated it to that Helen Schuckman, who was the channel. This is Jesus's work. Now, you don't have to really believe that, but once in a while when you're reading the course, he says, when I said that, I really meant this. Well, who's saying when I said this, I really meant this? Jesus. This is his way of setting things straight. You are the light of the world. You are love. You are spirit, whole, pure, and innocent. But as you do this advanced forgiveness, turn your day over to Holy Spirit, meditate daily, practice these truths, what will happen, there'll be a flow of thoughts and people coming and going in your life, and thoughts in your mind or things that people say to you. There's no accident. All of it's grist for the mill to show you where you're at in your mind, show you where you're thinking, where your beliefs are. And you can have journals, you can journal and thoughts. Then you can look back on that and see if there's a recurring theme of something Holy Spirit's trying to show you. Well, what mine was, before I should say what mine is, when I said there's really nobody out there, there is a paragraph in the course that I sat with and learned, sat with it, contemplated it, reflected on it, just took it, kind of tried to take it in. You know how we do. That's absorbing, letting these truths wash through your heart and your mind. Granted, we're not a body, but the body is an image in the mind. And as your mind awakens and is illumined, then the mind awakens, the heart opens, the spirit is light and energy. You radiate light. It comes out of your body because your body's an image in the mind. But anyway, here's the paragraph. It's in chapter 18, and it's the definition of heaven, which is saying there's nobody out there. That means there's no forms out there. It's, what does a dream mean? I'm mentally reviewing, Jesus says in the course, what's already gone by. A dream like at night when you're laying in bed and your eyes are closed and you remember later your nighttime dream. Well, your eyes were closed. What was watching the dream? It was your mind, your awareness. So when you get up in the morning, you put your feet on the floor, you think, boy, if that was a bad dream or whatever, you go, I'm glad that was a dream. Well, when you put your feet on the floor and you're having a daytime dream now, Jesus says we're doing serial dreaming. That's just dreaming day and night. But see, you're awakening from the dream at your own pace. Jesus will never scare you. If you're scared or afraid of something, then that's ego doing something. And I'm going to talk about that ah mantra. You want to take a deep breath in. The deep breath starts from 2 inches below your navel. Take a deep breath in. On the exhale, say ah, drag out A-H, ah. And what you're doing, you're releasing these feelings and surrendering, relaxing the form to your spirit, to the spirit, the vast expanse of clear light God. Then you do that again 3 times and it's relaxing, you're surrendering to something beyond the body. We talked about that last week. If you all want or weren't here last week, check out last week's video because I talk about this surrender, this joining with something beyond the body, this expansiveness, Jesus calls it, of joining something beyond the body. And that joining is of the holy mind, your higher Christ self, a higher Buddha self, your higher mind that's here versus the small egoic mind. In that second, when you're doing that, and you follow it, I'm going to be describing this, you follow that sound out with your awareness and let it go and go and go and go. And even when the sound is finished by your just silently say and let it go some more. And watch it go. When it stops, there's what's called nothingness or spaciousness. That's clear light of source. That space is clear light of God. There's no thoughts or projections in it. It's your true self. But anyway, here's the quote about heaven that is talking about there's nobody out there. There's nothing outside of you. That is what you must ultimately learn, for it's a realization that the kingdom of heaven is restored to you. For God created only this, and he did not depart from it or leave it separate from himself. The kingdom of heaven is the dwelling place of the Son of God, who left not his Father and dwells not apart from him. Heaven is not a place nor a condition. It is merely an awareness of perfect oneness and the knowledge that there's nothing else, nothing outside this oneness, and nothing else within. So picture that oneness. When you follow that sound, that A-H is called a seed syllable, the primordial seed syllable, the beginningless beginning when the Son of God made or created the Garden of Eden. Everything was perfect. There was not duality. Spirit, holy light was flowing through everything. Everything was perfect until the Holy Son of God wanted to know what it was like to be in a body. And in that moment, the Course says, when he forgot to laugh at that single mad idea, he then believed he was confined in a body, a separate shell. And see, we look separate from each of our brothers. But if you follow the sound, that sound was, for me, the breath of life that the Son of God breathed into that form, Adam, in that Garden of Eden, that sound. And Jesus says in the Course, there's a call and there's a response from God. The call is the goes into you. And as you say out, this is another angle that wasn't really going to talk about. It is your response. You're replying to God. Like, really, I love you, God. I love you. Just follow that sound. And that nothingness is oneness. The awareness of where you unite your mind with that space, mingle your mind with that space, and then let space mingle with your awareness. I wrote this in this email. And for those that haven't gotten, I word processed a document called on this mantra. This, of all the years I've been studying, I started in 2004, but I really started practicing hard in 2014. What I'm teaching you now is a culmination of the 8 years of damn hard work I've done and hoping to save you years of work. And you don't have to believe the odds, anything, but that it can relax you. That you want to do because you are contracted. The body is contracted. It feels dense, contracted, solid. You want to relax, surrender to this. And this breath is the easiest way to let go of your egoic form, egoic thoughts. Anyway, so because Jesus says here, there's nothing outside this oneness. So look out here, this is outside oneness, what we're looking at here in your room. This is outside oneness. Your body is outside oneness. And then it says, and nothing else within. That's the mind that's not confined in this head, but the mind has thoughts, expectations, distractions, emotions, feelings, all those things. That's stuff. That's nothing else within. That's why you learn to meditate, where you can take a pause between two thoughts, and there's a sacred pause, a little gap of this light, clear light, space, which is God. In duality, that's the closest we're going to get this awareness of oneness. But now what came up, folks, is I am really trying to pay attention what comes up in my mind or what shows up in front of my face. I'll be darned if I didn't have, it kept coming up for a few days. I had an attachment to a family member, to their form, believing their form. Other family members, I could more easily let them go and see spirit, right? Oh man, Holy Spirit showed me I had an attachment to that form, and I thought I had let go of it. And so with this realization came that I still had attachment. It really bothered me because I thought I'd let it go. So, and when it occurred was, see, I meditate daily with that Dzogchen LA group out of LA. We were starting to chant and say our prayers, you know, inviting in all the awakened ones, enlightened beings, Jesus, all of them. They don't say Jesus, Buddha, but I invite in Jesus. The thought comes. And I normally, after chants and prayers, I am looking at each person, calling them God, Christ, Buddha, but I also, there's a third eye. That is your light, the vision of union. And I will beam light from that into every person, pick up each person and do that light. Well, it came to me, oh, I can't do that. I couldn't do that. What I needed to do was to look at each person and say spirit to them, spirit. And Dzogchen Buddhism teaches us to cut through the form. It's sort of like taking a diagonal cut, and you separate the form and there's space. Clear light, spirit's how I look at that, spirit. Huh. So I'm cutting through each form, saying spirit to them. I'm going to read my notes because Holy Spirit had me do specific, if thoughts would come and I knew it was Holy Spirit. So I cut through their form, but the next thing, there's a saying this Lama Surya Das taught us to say, I'm responsible for my own karma. My happiness and suffering depends entirely on me. Because see, what I had attachment to this form, I was feeling suffering. I was feeling suffering. I was suffering. I was upset that I had attachment to the form, that I had not let them go, be free, released to spirit. But it was me that was suffering. I'm causing my own suffering. So I'm repeating this over and over. I am responsible for my own karma. My happiness and suffering depends entirely on me. And I kept repeating those sentences until it came to me, yes, I'm causing my own suffering. And okay, so then the next thing I did was this breath. Then I'm not kidding you, I'm crying. Anybody was there last Friday, and I've learned enough now. I let my feelings go. The other thing is to not resist what's going on, not deny it, be with it. But the big thing is to learn to breathe through it, to breathe in and out of the feeling. Don't deny it, breathe in and out of it. And meantime, also I'm asking Holy Spirit, help me, guide me. And so I'm doing that breath repeatedly, taking a deep breath in and out, just back and forth, back and forth. And it dawns on me, because I've sat with this mantra that's in this last week's lesson in here, and I have that document that I can email you, is that I actually feel that my mind mingles with the space, unites and mingles with the space, and then space mingles with my awareness. Because what else is seeing all these screen images on the screen? It's your awareness. Your awareness is seeing this. That awareness needs to be awakened from ordinary awareness to awakened awareness. Where you're aware, that's a Christ there, Rob, a Danielle, that's a Christ, Joanne, Christ, that's an Christ, spirit, not a body. It's an awakened awareness. But anyway, I'm feeling it. I'm resting in it. It's dissolving and resting with it. And I just go with it, but I'm still, but that did bring some spaciousness. Now, what will happen if you do that, breathing in and out and saying, oh, what happens, you get a spaciousness versus duality. For how I now look at it, was when my awareness was mingled out there with all the forms. I was out there thinking I was a form. I'm out there being in the form world. The spaciousness gives you the ability to lean back from that ego mind, gives you some space between the ego thoughts back to your spacious, clear, spirit. And then you're not down in this egoic thinking. And so I actually leaned back, and my awareness went behind my head to what's called to the top of the mountain, so to speak. That's just a phrase that refers to that the awareness is not down in the muck, not down in the battleground, Jesus calls it, not down in the turmoil and chaos of attachment and aversion. So I was watching Glenda crying and breathing, and the screen of the laptop was in front of her, where I'm just able to watch or observe what's going on. That's awakened awareness, your Christ awakening vision from being down in the chaos. But anyway, that happened. And then I heard Holy Spirit, because I'm still not out of it, tell me, do not give up. You can do this. You can, this is what he told me, you can overcome this attachment and still be around the person. Because see, ego had told me I could think of them as spirit, but I don't want to be around that form. It's separate. It's still keeping things separate, right? But the Holy Spirit said, no. You can do this. Do not give up. You can do this. And what came to me when I was reading my notes before tonight, that in Dzogchen Buddhism, they talk about Buddha was sitting under the Bodhi tree, right? And all these images or temptations came to him. And they show it with all kinds of ferocious images. Temptations came to him. And he sat firm. He sat firm because all this stuff's in his mind, right? But he sees images, because that's lesson, I think it's 15. Because the thoughts you think appear as images. You think you see them. It's called image making. It's not seeing. It's not the seeing vision of Christ. because we think a thought, it makes an image, and then it's projected out there. These projections are a trick, a sleight of hand that ego's done. Really, this dream is playing out in your mind, like at nighttime, you're seeing it in your mind. But the trick of the daytime dream, the crap is projected out in front of you. That makes it more difficult. And we never, ever put our body in harm's way. Never, ever, even though these are images on this like movie screen. But anyway, Buddha was sitting under the tree, and I thought about him. What I'm like, what these thoughts are endless. This attachment and shame, fear of having an attachment, it just not stopping. I am getting a little space from it. Then I looked in chapter 31, and Jesus says the same thing that these Buddhists talk about temptation. In joyous welcome is my hand outstretched. Now that's Jesus saying, my hand is outstretched to every brother who would join with me in reaching past temptation, and who looks with fixed determination toward the light that shines beyond in perfect constancy. And I realized that was what was happening. Holy Spirit told me, do not give up. You can do this. In essence, he's saying, I'm here. And see that he's holding your hand as these temptations were going through me. Well, anyway, so I realized when I was sitting there, I was crying for two reasons. One was that I thought I'd given up that attachment, that I'd let it go. But the second main reason I was crying, and I'm blithering crying, is I believe there's a body out there, that there's bodies out there to be attached to. I mean, that's the crux of it. So see, this example that Holy Spirit brought to me was to help me release myself from this total big judgment. Now, that's what the Course will ultimately do for you. You keep practicing these individual truths. They build on themselves till finally they become, and Jesus even says this, it becomes a generalization where you can apply it to everything. Because so that's what was happening, then I could apply it. But anyway, it dawned on me that was the deal. That was another reason I'm crying. But I still hadn't come to the big final realization. But I knew enough that I needed to change. I needed to stop meditating and doing that. And I was supposed to go see my sister, and we were going to go to the health club to work out. So I thought, hey, I chatted the lady that was hosting the meeting. I need to leave early. Thank you. I'll see you tomorrow. And because there's generally a whole same group of people that meditate. And I left in my vehicle, but I was very careful. I asked Holy Spirit, now keep me alert, be alert moment to moment to what's going on, because not everybody should be out driving when you're going through something like that, right? Should stay home. But anyway, I was able to drive. And why the Holy Spirit had me drive is because these images, I'm at a stoplight, and the image of these vehicles coming and going at this stoplight made me realize I'm seeing my own dream play out in front of my face, in my mind. These cars these are dream images, and Lama Surya calls them mirage images, but also Jesus calls them hallucination, fantasy, delusion, illusion. The crux of it, they're not real. We made them up, we projected them, but we never put our body in harm's way. Never want to tell somebody outside of a group like this that their body's not real. They'll put you in the psych ward. I mean, this is just, the truth that we can practice, because we end up, as your mind is illumined, the body becomes illumined. Your body embodies Christ and Buddha, light and virtues, love and kindness, and uses your hands, your mouth, your ears to help your brothers. While you're remembering the body's not really here. But anyway, I've got to read my notes because see, I wrote this down because I thought it could help you. Okay. I'd look out at the image and I'd repeat. I'm not kidding. I repeat to myself. I'm mental, because this is what Jesus says in the Course. You're mentally reviewing what's already gone by. And what's a better definition of a dream? That's something that's already been filmed. It's already gone by. Called a movie, but that's a dream. So I say to myself, I'm mentally reviewing my own dream. And I look out there and I go, those images are mirage images, my daytime dream images, that there really was nothing out there. I'm not kidding you. I was saying this. All those images are made up images. And then I'd stop and see the clear light of spirit. And what I was doing, I was going from seeing spirit in my mind to then looking at those images and label them, because I needed to sort true from false. I needed to tell myself what was really going on. I kept talking to myself, but it's also called reasoning. Jesus says you're learning to reason with yourself. I was reasoning with myself. Those are dream figures. Those are false images. And so I was sitting at the stoplight and I was still crying, but I was still looking out there and doing what I'm explaining here. And it damn came to me. Oh, wait, before, also again, my awareness went behind my head and I saw Glenda in her car at the stop sign, blah, blah, stoplight, blah, blah, blah. Then it came to me abruptly. I realized if there's nobody out there, I can't have an attachment. If there's nobody out there, there's nothing to be attached to. Now, you'll come to your own realization how you put that to yourself. But it was like, wham, abruptly, I got it. There was nothing out there, so there was nothing to be attached to. And in that moment, I am not kidding you, it was a different, I recognized there was a different feeling. And when I was writing my notes, I realized that before there were human feelings. And this feeling was, I had a no feeling, is the only way I could describe it now that I'm talking to you all about it. I had a no feeling, but I still recognized I love the person and I love all my family members, but there was a no feeling. And I just kind of let that go. And it wasn't until the next day, see, this Lama Surya does Facebook posts, and I look at him because usually it's almost like he's reading our minds out here. And he's got this post, I forget if it was the Dalai Lama saying about having a warm heart and compassion for your brothers. And when I read that, I realized what changed was my heart was coming from a warmness due to compassion for my family members and all beings, because they don't know they're Christ, Buddha, Spirit, or God. They're ignorant of these truths that you're trying to learn from A Course in Miracles and practice to awaken to this absolute reality. And so it's gone from that, it's really bizarre kind of thing. But anyway, that's that deal. No, I can't. Yep, that was it. And then, so then when I went to pick my sister up and go to this health club, my body, I felt was really my mind out of kilter. Because see what had happened, this realization was a huge one. It was a big, I'm realizing the whole thing is made up. There's nobody out there. But it hadn't got stabilized. Because what will happen as you practice these truths, you'll have light experiences or revelations. And I call it, don't have premature immaculation, meaning thinking you're awakened just because you had a light experience. Because I've had light experiences and would think, oh, maybe I'm awakened. But when I look back on all this, you could have hundreds or thousands of them. Because what's ultimately going to come is for you to have the realization like the heaven definition, there's nothing outside of you. This is what you must ultimately learn, for it's the realization that the kingdom of heaven has been restored to you. For God created only that, and he did not depart from it or leave it separate from himself. The kingdom of heaven is the dwelling place of the Son of God, who left not his Father and dwells not apart from him. Heaven's not a place or a condition. It's merely an awareness of perfect oneness and the knowledge that there's nothing outside that oneness and nothing else within. Now, see, you don't push yourself to any of this, because you're each at your own pace and your own awakening experiences, but ultimately there will be realizations which you awaken to this big generalization about yourself and your brothers, and you'll have many of them as you wake up. Now, that's kind of and I don't want you to rush yourself or mimic mine. I only comment and bring up about this so you don't deny your feelings. You use your mood and your feelings to tell you what voice you listen to. And then I'll sit back, kind of lean back and think about, who was I thinking about? What thought was I having when that feeling happened that wasn't loving or caring? Because always be a thought, then there's a feeling, and it happens so knee-jerk, there'll be another thought and another feeling. It's a vicious cycle that ego does on each of us. And before you know it, you're all wound up into these feelings and moods that you want to back out of. And the only way is to relax. Use this ah breath. Use this ah breath 3 times in a row. Will calm you, relax you, and then you call on Holy Spirit to help guide you what to do or say. And you go again during your day. And you just do the best you can practicing these truths. I practice is called down the middle of the road. I'm not off on the ditch on one side that, you don't plan, budget, leave time for your family, your job, or your relationships. Only spiritual work. No. I watch TV. I walk every day. I have fun, listen to music and dance in my house. Still go to the doctor, have a relationship. I mean, you live a normal life, so to speak, while you're waking up. It's only ego that will have you go off in some ditch of total spiritual work, not a balance. It's a balance. You balance your physical life as you're practicing these lessons, and you're retraining. Jesus calls it unlearning. You're unlearning these thoughts of separation, knee-jerk thoughts of separate feelings and thoughts from yourself, your brother and God. But I try to share with you some straight paths. Boy, this all mantra, without it, ooh, wow, that really is calming. And it's a way to join and be aware of oneness. It's a quick way and to do that oneness, awareness of that oneness, if you stay with it. But to be able to stay with it, meditation is really a big deal, especially if you meditate with a group. There's a synergy. This light that comes from these people helps you. Anyway, that's okay. Now, any thoughts or comments? Because I'm a little early here, but kind of come to the end of this. Anyone wants to share? I'm still recording.
Yeah, I got something.
Gonzalo. Yes, hey, Gonzalo.
Hey, thank you again. The points you mentioned about continual practice and to realize that just because we might have a light experiences, because if you do the mind training work consistently, you will start having different experiences that might sound different from what you described, but nonetheless, they'll in some way affirm that we're not bodies, that our identity will some way reflect that we're not just this human physical piece of flesh, that we're deeper, more expansive beings. And it will occur. Our part is doing the mind training work and doing it consistently. And can't speak enough about the discipline and the commitment that's required. And, you know, you just keep sticking with it. And, you know, I always say that our purpose with each other on the journey is to help each other save time, where, you know, you share some pitfalls and some mistakes we made, if we want to call them that, upon the journey, so that our brothers and sisters don't have to experience that at the same time. You know, we say, oh, that, you know, when we raise kids, we want to teach them things that we wish we knew at the time. And it's not being egotistical as much as we want each other to wake up, because we're the same one. And if we help each other wake up faster, then we wake up faster. So it's all the same one, the same purpose, really. And within that vein, it makes everything much more simple the deeper we go with this, that to realize every single interaction that we ever have, every feeling, every emotion, every difficulty, every challenge becomes the same purpose. And that's to turn it over to the light of Holy Spirit, Jesus, for purposes of awakening, for cleansing. It simplifies this very complicated world, which is made up of all these separate ideas, separate identities, separate purposes, separate goals, separate belief systems. And they're designed to take us away from our God-given truth, which is one. And so to have a simple, singular focus in our life when we wake up, on the most practical level, it really simplifies our lives, because it gives us one focus to take all of this complication and use it for purposes, the only thing that matters. And it doesn't mean, and we can't emphasize enough that it does not mean, and this used to come up when I did group, it does not mean for a second that Jesus in the Course is telling us to deny or pretend or fake whatever our experience is. Quite the opposite. He's telling us that we use the experience, hand it over to him. And when we do this, what happens, those experiences little by little start to become less and less consuming, less and less intimidating. And it is uncomfortable as hell for a while. You gave the point about us repressing our feelings, which we've done our entire life. You know, the ego's trained us very thoroughly. Repress, suppress, you know, be a serious adult. You can't act like that. You know, what are people going to think? This is all the stuff that we've gotten since we were kids. So we have to train our minds with the master teacher to let us know that all of the releasing of these emotions are required for us to get to our core true self as the Christ, that we absolutely have to go through a very difficult phase of release and letting go. You know, Jesus calls it the trust, the building of trust, the stages of the development of trust in the manuals. And so I encourage everybody to do the mind training, however you get to it, but to really devote as much as your purpose throughout your day to doing the mind training, because there's no substitute for it. And the things that you share, Glenda, really help to sum those things up in a sense, but there's no substitute for the practice to really, however we get. I know we have busy days, but again, we spend time doing what's important. You know, if what's important is to go out and do fun stuff in the world to where I'm distracted from my God-given purpose, then that's what I spend my time on. But ultimately, we realize that what's really fun is waking up to who we are as a Christ. That's really fun. So we learn how to use the distractions to come back to this one purpose. So thank you.
Oh, wow, Gonzalo, very good. I know you live this, you try to live this, and also I try, even when I'm out in my daily life, to stop and take this breath, and just, it takes just a second. I visualize my mind mingling with that space, and then space mingling with my awareness. Yeah. And it just takes a few seconds. And I brought holiness, God light, right here, right now, into that moment. Yeah. Then you were off doing whatever we're doing. Yes, we're living this physical life, but yet we're integrating our practice within it.
Yes. And the only thing that changes really is our prioritizing of what we're here for. It's not the activities per se. And I think that for a lot of us, the interest in certain things drop away. They just kind of, that happens naturally.
Yes.
So many of us, that the interest in certain things just in worldly just drops away. We don't typically
it.
resigned from the world. That's typically not
Right.
what happened, becoming a monk and going to a monastery on a mountaintop.
No.
That typically doesn't happen. But our interest in the immense distraction of the world, that starts to drop away. And then our interaction with the world becomes another opportunity to practice, to fulfill our purpose. There's a deepening of what we do in the world. You know, still go out there, work, pay bills, but there's a clarifying, I feel, what happens very naturally. We don't do it. We allow the Holy Spirit and Jesus to arrange things to where our focus becomes clear, our lives become simpler, because we've cleared a lot of the distractions that we invested into and thought were, and not only believed were real, but we believed we depended on these things for, and people to be happy, to feel fulfilled. So there's a definite dropping away, but we aren't in charge of that. That's another big pitfall. We want to say, okay, I'm going to do all these things and like to be spiritual. That's an ego trap. We don't arrange anything. Routines. No. The only thing we arrange is practicing, doing the mind training, you know, making time for our meditations, and again, taking that with us during the day, more deeply. But the specifics of how it looks and how it unfolds, that's not our doing. The Holy Spirit and Jesus will arrange that falling away. So it's important. And again, we have a lot of confusion with that on purpose, because the ego's made it complicated. But the main thing to remember is to go through our day practicing this stuff, that we can apply it to whatever comes up in our mind, whatever thought, judgment. We don't have any excuses or exceptions to at least try to apply the light of Holy Spirit in our practice during the day. And everything from that point becomes an opportunity to build trust and allow letting go and the power to take over for us. But it takes a lot of work.
Oh,
it takes a lot of work until it just kind of wind at your sails, and it starts.
It's a flow. It's
automatic.
A flow.
Yeah. Like what
and how I know I'm not in the flow is when something stops.
Yeah.
There's an abrupt stop. And then that's when I look at my mind, okay, Holy Spirit, what's going on?
Yeah.
And then I'll look and see that I've had a judgment, either about a person or an event, that Holy Spirit's having me stop and look at and practice this advanced forgiveness on. And that brings, something came to mind when you were talking, Gonzalo, is people ask, well, what's the purpose of my life? What's my real purpose? Well, of course, granted, you've got things you're doing in this physical realm, but the purpose is whatever shows up in front of my face is to practice advanced forgiveness on.
Period.
Do I think of that person as Christ, Buddha, God, or not?
Period.
At what point am I going to remember? Now, when you're talking with them, that I just am spontaneous, and I'm just doing whatever they're doing, right? I'm laughing, I'm just spontaneous. Right. But as soon as I can, when I walk away, I remember, they're Christ, Buddha. They're not that body. They're spirit. And then at the end of the day, for those that I haven't thought about, I'll recount my day. What people did I run into? What my neighbors, my family members that called, TV politicians, like I was watching that Speaker of the House vote thing. Then, McCarthy is spirit, whole pure and innocent, all is forgiven and released. All those people, politicians, are representatives, are spirit, Jesus, Buddha, all is forgiven and released. Now, why we say all is forgiven? Because we unconsciously egos knee-jerk putting judgments on everything, sorting them by size, height, their color, their clothes, what they're saying, their accent, and all that is so knee-jerk, it's stored in the unconscious mind. Man, that's why it's like an iceberg. So then at the end of the day, it's best if you can kind of just relook at your day and let go of these judgments, this karma, that you built karma during that day. I built karma during that day. If I didn't, but anyway, you still enjoy life, like Gonzalo's saying. We enjoy our life. We're not here. We're dancing with life and enjoying it while we breathing through these feelings and emotions and obstacles is what I have found is the quickest way to get to the other side, to then remember their spirit. Wow. But first I got to calm down. from
Yeah.
what I'm thinking.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Wow.
really the only purpose that is the only purpose that we have here. There are no purpose,
Yes, what shows up
you
in front
know,
of my face,
that's
that's my
it.
work.
That's
And
it.
it's both good and bad.
Yeah.
It's every fun event. It's not just when something might go bad.
Yeah.
It's everything because it's all made up. It's
Yeah.
all projections of the mind.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you don't have to think of it that way. You just
Right.
got to get to thinking of them as spirit, as
Right.
Jesus, as Buddha.
Right. Right.
Wow, way to go, Gonzalo. Now I realized I could read a paragraph about this mantra, which might help about breathing, but anyone else got a thought or a comment they want to make? Because I really want to, I just got that. Because, and if I didn't, you didn't get this mantra, I word process, it's about a page and a page and 3/4 from this book of Lama Surya Das, Natural Radiance. Let's see. Oh, look, here it is. He's got like 14 or 15 books, but Natural Radiance. And so I word process it, but I want to read this part about, well, we got enough time. It's 3 paragraphs. And the heading for this section says morning wake up sky breath practice. The mantra. Is AH, mantra. Mantra just means something you say. So in Jesus' Course in Miracles, he's got us saying mantras all the time. Like, I'm not a body, I am free, for I'm still as God created me. God, God, God. The name of God is my own. Here's what this book says about the mantra. Buddhist spirituality is all about awakening. See, that's the course too. In fact, the word Buddha comes from the root B-O-D-H-I, Bodhi, to awaken or to wake up. See, we're waking up from the dream. So it's important to, now these Buddhists don't call it a dream. They say it's dream-like, but he will actually say it's an hallucination, a fantasy, a mirage. A mirage, this picture, you're out on the desert, haven't had any water for a while. You look out there and before you know it, there's things showing up. Mirage images. Well, that's what the mind, ego's doing. It's projecting images. We've let it do that. Now that's lesson 15, and that's worth reading because that came up tonight. And boy, these first lessons in the workbook, they are some powerful lessons. Here, it's first paragraph. Lesson 15. My thoughts are images that I have made. It is because the thoughts you think appear as images that you do not recognize them as nothing. You think them, so you think you see them. This is how your seeing, he's got that in quotes, was made. This is the function you have given your body's eyes. It is not seeing, it is image making. It takes the place of seeing, replacing vision with illusions. Now, somebody asked some holy person one time, how much ego do you really need? And they replied, just enough. You don't step out in front of a car. But see, ego wants to cause turmoil and chaos. We're still alert. We don't walk out in front of a car. I go to my doctor for my physical checkup, take my meds if I'm whatever, see a psychotherapist if I need to, call 911 if I need to. But as soon as possible, practice Jesus' advanced forgiveness. When I go for my annual 6-month visit or annual visit, I'm practicing, I'm silently looking at everybody in that waiting room. You are spirit, whole, pure, and innocent, all is forgiven and released. I mean, so immediately, that's the deal. But anyway, that's these thoughts. And see, they're talking here, we want to wake up from that. We're image making. So this Lama Surya Das says, so it's appropriate to greet the day with the Dzogchen morning wake up sky breath practice. For this practice, we use the easy to memorize, user-friendly Dzogchen sky breath mantra, AH. Although this is traditionally practiced first thing in the morning, you can also take any moment in the day to wake yourself up and to awaken to the world. See, it's powerful. This thing is so powerful. or simply to refresh and energize yourself. I find that stopping in the midst of a busy day to simply take a deep breath and exhale with a great releasing can perforate the solidity and claustrophobia of an intense day, letting the fresh air of spirit and awareness, like Jesus talks about awareness, blow through. This is the last paragraph. To chant the mantra, take a deep breath, and on your exhalation, open your eyes and mouth wide, raise your gaze and chant a resounding, relieving as far as you can go, like You just take that sucker as far as you can go. Be aware of your out breath as you chant the mantra and repeat the mantra from 1 to 3 times. You can try to chant at different volumes and in different tones. Emptying yourself, this is the big deal, emptying yourself totally and dissolving with each out breath. That's what Jesus is wanting you to do with most all of his lessons. Wants you to let go, dissolve that egoic thoughts and let go. And you can do it with this out breath. As you do this, be aware of how your mind unites and mingles with space and how that space itself mingles with your awareness. Let everything else, thoughts, emotions, feelings, plans, distractions, noises, expectations, dissolve in vast open space. Simply rest in the view, at ease with everything, including yourself, precisely as you are. At the end of your exhalation, let the sound of the mantra resound into nothingness, both within and without. See, he's talking about within and without, just like Jesus did. And rest in the utter silence and simplicity of the natural state of just being. When thoughts arise into this state of natural meditation, chant a few lengthy ahs, following the out breath. Try to become aware of dissolving a little more with each repetition. Then once again, rest in the spacious openness and clarity of natural meditation. You can continue to alternate this dissolving and resting at your own pace, in your own natural way. And this breath mantra can be used anytime, any situation. When you feel the need for a little spaciousness or simply the need to wake up and become more alert and aware. If you are in public and do not feel comfortable chanting the mantra out loud, you can perform it inwardly to yourself while riding a great out breath. Anyway, now what he's talking about is you are perfect right here, right now, just as you are. You are perfect because you are the perfect Christ, Buddha, right now, you are. You're just not aware of it. It's veiled by some of these judgments. But as you find your own way, I'm just suggesting this mantra, as you can let go of these egoic thoughts. I call it unzipping the form, the flesh suit. Unzip it and just release, let go, surrender, dissolve into that sound. You'll start to feel a spaciousness, your spirit, eternal, vast spirit, and beingness. That is your beingness, that natural rest right there in that spaciousness. Because for years I went, what the hell? I don't know what beingness is. I'm trying to describe to you, this is what it is. It's not something crazy. This is just getting used to your natural self, your natural spirit, which is expressed as spaciousness and stillness. It's pretty beautiful. It's just beautiful, huh? Anyway, then this, if you don't have that mantra sheet, I'll email it to you. I may attach it next week to my email. Now, any other thoughts or comments before I stop recording here? Oh, before we go, let's pick 3 people on the screen and practice Jesus's advanced forgiveness on them. And that simply means, and I've got this advanced forgiveness document as well that I word processed from the course and Gary Renard's books, which show specific texts and workbook lessons. What I'm talking about here is true. I'm not making this up. You look beyond the body, past the body, to this clear light, the spirit that's here now, or you say all of it to a person, this person that's in front here, or you are spirit, whole, pure, and innocent, all is forgiven and released. Or you can say God. There's so many ways to do that. You can say God did the form, or Christ, or Buddha. So pick 3 people and do that. And see, we can even do all of them. That's not right. It only takes 2 seconds or something to do one person. Then go to the next one. All of it, all of it. And to yourself, you can say all of it. Or you can say, I am a mortal spirit. This body is a false image and has nothing to do with what I am. You are immortal spirit, this vast spaciousness. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That's great. Okay. Again, I'm going to say, any other thoughts or comments before I stop the recording? Well, thank you for coming out tonight. I much appreciate it. See you next Tuesday for those that can come live, 7 to 8 Eastern time. And for those that can't come live, I have a YouTube channel called Glenda Carlin, A Course in Miracles, YouTube. And you can look at these videos later if you want, or if you want to repeat looking at one.